News Talk Cleveland, WERE, Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland. And streaming live at blackplanetradio.com. This is a paid program brought to you by Starfish Speaks. The views and opinions expressed are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of this station or its management.
Welcome to Starfish Speaks on WERE 1490, and I'm so pleased to have today's show being brought to you by Washington & Company Insurance Agency of Cleveland Heights. We're pleased to bring you information about resources in our community, current events in education, hot topics and ideas to make parenting your special needs child enriching and hopefully fun. We hope you'll join us in our discussion today by calling in 216-578-1490. We hope Starfish Speaks becomes an important part of your Sunday afternoon, so grab a cup of coffee and join us in the discussion. I'm Donna Gilcher, your host of Starfish Speaks today, and before we get started, we had a question emailed in from a listener in Parma. The question was, how do I know if my child's making progress? And what if I don't think they're making enough progress? My daughter's in third grade and is still reading at the first grade level. I'm worried about the third grade reading guarantee, and her teachers simply say, "Don't worry, we'll excuse her." I want her to become a reader. Parma, first of all, thanks so much for your question. I think many parents wonder about the same thing. First, your child's IEP should list your child's reading goals and how their progress will be measured. You should be getting progress reports every 9 weeks that should contain data concerning their progress. If it's simply saying doing good or progressing, ask for those details. You want quantitative data, work samples. If not, ask for an IEP meeting to discuss your concerns. Second, if the IEP team is unresponsive, feel free to reach out to a consultant or advocate to assist with identifying what your child's educational needs and current progress is. You're welcome to call Starfish Advocacy Association at 216-283-2377 for a consultation. But lastly, remember, recently the Supreme Court gave us more power in being able to know what our children should be doing and what type of program a child with special needs should be getting. With Andrew F. and Douglas County School District sets forth that standard for the level of benefit required under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. Now schools are required not to simply do the minimal progress, but instead requires schools to provide meaningful progress, commiserate with what they provide to their general education students. So, setting high standards that are reasonably for your student to be able to ask and obtain is not inappropriate. Keep advocating for your daughter. Thanks for the email. If you have a question you'd like answered on Starfish Speaks, email starfish, STARFISH, at starfishabvocacy.org, STARFISHADVOCACY.org, with Starfish Speaks in the subject line, and we'll be happy to answer your question on air. So thanks again, Parma. We appreciate that. I am so pleased to have Illene Hoffer, Skoff, Executive Director and co-founder of Milestones Autism Resources, an organization dedicated to educating, coaching, and connecting the Northeast Ohio autism community with evidence-based information. Since 2003, Illene has directed Milestones with an emphasis on providing practical strategies and innovative programming. Milestone serves over 2,400 parents a year, professionals and self-advocates annually through their National Autism Conference. If you haven't been to it, you definitely want to go in June. It's a winner. free help desk, consultation, and training, as well as online resources. Illene has over 20 years' experience working with nonprofit agencies. So welcome. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I want to start with, can you tell our audience, first of all, how Milestones was founded? I mean, I remember early on hearing about Milestones in your early days. And then what makes you so unique in the field of autism, especially within Cleveland?
Donna, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Milestones started in 2003. Prior to that, I'm a parent of a young adult with autism, and I was seeking information, trying to find information to help my daughter. And what I kept running up against was that in the professional community, very few people, if at all, had specific autism specific training. That's what really was shocking to me. I think Cleveland is such a great town and very supportive and a wonderful medical community, a wonderful educational community. But for autism at that time, late 90s, early 2000, the teachers I was meeting had maybe one class in autism, maybe it was mentioned. And I was concerned about how my child would progress and how she would learn if the teachers really didn't have the training in autism.
Or the high expectations.
Right, it's true. It's the standard we set for our kids. And so at that time, I was doing my own research, and I met another mom, Mia Buckwall-Gellis, and together we started helping each other. And we both had found books by Catherine Maurice, and she is a parent, and she had been learning about ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, and she was bringing in trainers to work in her home and work with her child. And to me, it was finding a roadmap. That's what the difference was, finding a way to help my daughter progress, helping her to teach. I think when we began to see that we could take tasks and break them down and teach them individually, chain that into helping her to master a skill and helping her in different settings and across different people, that opened up so many worlds for us. Just figuring out how she learned, that's what opened the door for us. And I think Mia and I said, okay, how can we, we've done all this research, but not everybody has the time or the resources to do that. And how can we help more parents begin to learn strategies that will help their children? And that's why we said, what's missing here in our community is, first of all, a location, a place where people can call, but also a place where everyone in the autism community can learn together. And your other question was what makes us unique. For Milestones, we see this autism community that includes not just the family, not just the person with autism, but the professionals, the teachers, the therapists, the doctors, as a community working together to support that individual and that family. And so at our conference, which you mentioned, that's a place where all those people are learning together. They're all presenting. We have individuals with autism presenting. We have family members presenting. We have doctors and teachers. And I think having people understand that there's not one person who has something to share. Everyone in that autism community has gone through a process and has learned through that process and has something to share in terms of what has been working and also, just as important, what's not working for them.
Right. So how, I've got a question to ask you. How does Milestones make the decision on what to support or not? Because, I got to tell you, as a parent of a kid with autism who's been out there doing lots of the research, I got to tell you, sometimes I would find things that were being like, ooh, I don't know, and different kinds of therapies. I've never had that feeling on your website or at any of your conferences. You guys must have some litmus that you guys use at Milestones to make that decision on what we're going to support and share out with the community.
I really appreciate your question. I really do. As someone who, as you said, has been looking and feels that uncomfortable feeling of, I'm not sure if I can trust this. What we're trying to do is present information at the conference and when you call us and on the website that has been proven to be effective. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want you to be in a situation that's harmful for your child. And so we're looking for things that have research to support the services. In addition, we are in contact with the people that we present and that are on the website, and we have a staff that goes to vet these services. So we're looking into them. We're finding out. Share with us how do you work with that population, with individuals with autism? What are you doing? What are your strategies? How have you been trained? How has your staff been trained? And what are the statistics? What's the data to show that this has been helpful?
I love it. So you're doing, as those of us in education, we call peer-reviewed research, but you're actually doing that vetting process so that we don't have parents running down rabbit holes. And that's the thing that, as a consultant, I always get concerned when I find parents that have run down a lot of rabbit holes and spent a lot of money on some therapies that may not be a good bang for your buck, is what we call it in STARFISH. Great. So why is Milestones, again, this you may have already answered, why is it so important to the Cleveland community? Because I got to tell you, out in the community, everyone talks about Milestones. If I'm looking for something, and I may call somebody up asking, hey, do you know where I could find? The first words out of their mouths are, did you call Milestones? Did you call Milestones? Why is that? Why is Cleveland so embraced Milestones, and why is everybody talking about you?
We are grateful to be here so we can help other people. I think the way this conversation is going, you and I as parents, we know we're in the trenches, we're trying to see what's going to help our child, but then we've taken a step beyond. And I think what we try to do with Milestones is it's a community. It's a place where people can come and trust the information, and it's a place where you can have give and take. And that's very important. I think that people are coming to us and sharing with us what has worked for them, what has not worked for them. We take that really to heart. One of the things that we do through our conference, as well as any of our services, is an evaluation process. We want to know what people are thinking. We've tried to be very collaborative. I thought one of your questions was going to be, how do we choose what's at the conference? And the way that we do that is we have a conference steering committee, and we have a community of individuals who represents all of the different facets of the autism community. Individuals with autism, the educational community, the medical community, family members, all the people who access these services and want to hear what is new and important in the field of autism and learn from each other. So we together review the proposals.
Right.
The entire community submits proposals. We have hundreds to look at, and then this committee will decide and reviews them and provides the tracks that we have at the conference. For Milestones, we're here to serve the community and improve the service. We all have the same goal. We want our individuals with autism to reach their potential. And from Milestones, what we're trying to do is work on it from the educational perspective, providing the education and training, the strategies for each member of that autism community.
Wow. So I know that you guys do some services for families, and families can call, ask for help. So if a family calls you, they ask for help, what will they receive? Do you have somebody showing up and going to IEP meetings with them? Do you help them find doctors? What kind of things can you provide?
For Milestones, we have our online resources, which is available, obviously, 24/7 by going online. And at the website, you can see our calendar of events. You can download toolkits of frequently asked questions. You can find resources and links to individuals. So let's say you're looking for a social skills group. Well, you're not sure. There's a long list of them. You can call the Milestones free help desk to find out how can we access individuals for that referral. And we will help each person to personalize the service and make sure the referral is right for them. And so we take into account their geographic location, what insurance, we've also visited these places and know the people that we're referring to. So that's a free help desk call. If families need a little more support and would like a plan, they're having difficulty with the school year, they have some challenging behaviors, and the school team is not able to address that and needs someone else around the table to support, we would, for consultation services, we do attend IEPs if that's what the family needs. But I think what's important with Milestones is we're trying to help families plan ahead, and that takes some backtrack. So your goal is for your child to go to camp for the summer. So that will take planning. What are you doing to help them be a little bit more independent in a couple of years so that they can go away to camp? Or maybe your goal is for them to get a job. What are the steps being taken toward that goal? That kind of planning is something that our consultants can do with families.
That's excellent, and it's something that's so needed. So I know personally about your wonderful services, especially for the young adults and transition resources. But can you tell our viewers what the realities of living with autism right now through the ages is?
As any question with autism, it's going to be an individualized response. You know, each person with autism presents differently. And because of that, it's sometimes harder to support a person with autism. It's not a cookie cutter solution.
Absolutely.
The families are all different. Their ability to support the person is all different. Their resources are different. How they're welcomed or not welcomed in the community is different. So it's hard for me to give one answer for everyone. I think for everyone to reach their potential, education has to be the starting point. The parents need to be educated in terms of what is available for their child, and they also need to know they don't have to do it alone. I think that it's very hard to address any challenge by yourself.
Right.
And I think what Milestones is trying to do, what STARFISH is trying to do, what other agencies in the community, we want people to know that you don't have to do it alone, that there are other people who have been on this journey and they've learned some things and they've stumbled sometimes, and it's really helpful to hear from other people. So I would want somebody to know that the first thing to be is to get connected. The other thing I think is important is this notion of community engagement. Again, I really hate to hear of families who feel isolated, who aren't able to leave their home to go out to a restaurant, who aren't partaking of community activities.
We hear about that all the time.
It's very scary. And I think that many of us who are in this situation get support from their nuclear family, but also from other organizations, autism organizations or not, religious organizations, community centers. I think it's important for people to begin to see that others care about their child and their family. And by doing so and being out in the community, that is a way for us to begin to form relationships, and some of those relationships may be helpful down the road in terms of employment, in terms of a place to live.
Awesome. All right. We have a caller. We've got a couple callers. The lines are lining up. And you know what? You can join our conversation at 216-578-1490. So we have a caller, line 1. Welcome.
Hello?
Hi. Can you tell us your name and where you're calling from?
Hey, I'm Louise in Bay Village. I, too, have a young adult with autism, and I'm wondering, in the 14 years of Milestone's existence, what kinds of changes have you seen in the autism community, and what further changes would you like to see?
Oh,
Thank
great
you.
question.
Thank you very much for your question. What I've seen over the years, if you compare from 2000 to today, there's a greater awareness of the individual needs of people with autism. There's a greater emphasis on the educational side, that there are specific strategies that will help support individuals with autism. I feel that younger parents of newly diagnosed today are learning there is a network around them. There are people to connect to. That's very different than in 2000. Oh. Huge difference there. A lot more services in the community. I think a place like Cuyahoga is very rich with services, and as you go through other parts of other surrounding counties, you don't see that as much. There's a lot more work to be done there. What I feel a real emphasis now for Milestones and for the autism community is continuing to educate the adult service providers. We've done a lot of work with the early elementary, middle school. I think high school is where it's at. We really need to do some more work there, and definitely for the adult providers.
Right. Well, and I know that you have Beth Thompson, works with the young adults and transition stuff, and she's working on trying to get some of that information out there. Every time she does one of those sort of, evening chats kind of thing, and I can get to it, I find out something new and stuff. But you know what? I agree with you. It's those life skills, those soft skills, those hard skills, the young adults being able to do it. Now, so what is Milestones doing to help educate even employers? Because that's really the area, for you, your child is probably in their early 20s too. Mm-hmm. We cracked the education system. So K-12, my child was accepted and whatever. Went off to college, had some difficulties at college and whatever, came back out. He's smart. He's got great skills, hard skills and whatever. We've worked on soft skills. We've mastered some of those. But you know what? It's just the work environment. Some of them are so toxic for our young adults, and they miss some of those, I don't know what you could call it, the razzing of the new guy kind of thing, and those cause those bumps in the road that may cause, broken employment and stuff. So what's Milestones able to help with those young adults that are trying to find their way?
Milestones is working on a number of different levels. So at the conference, we have individual tracks for employers. We have tracks for the guidance counselors. We have tracks for the individual with autism and for the family. Again, I'm always starting from the educational piece. And so that's what we're doing on that level for the conference. But we're getting into a hands-on area where we are providing internships and also supporting others in helping to develop internships. My earlier comment before about reaching into the community, very often what we'll see is we are working with families and with adult providers, but often the family has to look also to themselves in terms of who is in their community who could support my child in terms of offering a volunteer opportunity or an internship, or have the idea to bring to the school team to say, here are some ideas I know that my child could do well with, or here's something that we can try. What we started to do a number of years ago is we wanted to see what is it like to hire someone with autism. If we don't try to do it ourselves, who else is going to hire? And that was a wonderful process for us to see, well, what training do we need for our internal staff? And what kind of supports does that person need to have coming in? And what goals should we be working on? And how can we report back to them? And what should we develop? And for us, we learned a great deal and have developed it into a model that we can share with other agencies. So we have been doing that where people can come to us, high schoolers come to us. We work with different schools on placing an intern either in Milestones or in other places in the community. That's one of the things that we can share when we are on the school team, where we can share this is what's worked. These are agencies to get involved for this. So when, again, I go back to education, the employer needs some education so that they are comfortable supporting an individual with autism. The person themselves needs to know what's the work environment like, what is the expectation, what would be unexpected in that situation that could get you into trouble, and how to continue to support that and then fade that coaching support. It's that extra level of training and support that I think we need to be working on with our adult providers for them to understand that that makes the difference for somebody, not just getting the job, but keeping the job.
Now, are you working with Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, or is this more privately supporting those youth in job placements and internships separate of Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities? So it's sort of a private avenue versus the public state avenue.
We have worked in different ways. So if we're members of the school team, we definitely encourage them to bring on Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities so that they can support and fund it. The county board can also be supporting and funding that. If a family would like to hire Milestones directly to help support that, then that would be a private service.
Oh, awesome.
But I think, you mentioned Beth Thompson, who's amazing and who leads our programming staff. Haley Dunn is someone that joined our staff in the last year who has a background in mental health. Mm-hmm. There's a high percentage of individuals with autism who have that dual diagnosis.
Absolutely.
And that is something in particular that you need to have professionals who are aware of how to support those challenges. Helena Farkas we have on our staff, who has a background in helping lower-income families. She worked for 30 years with Metro Hospital
as
a social worker. And Monica Cicchini, who has a background in Head Start and early intervention services, and she supports our elementary school children, the families who contact us with those kinds of challenges.
Wow, so you've really built that A-plus team.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. So one of the things I know that was highlighted at Milestones and was standing room only presentation was the presentation on racial disparities in the identification of autism. And that's one of the key issues that we're dealing with here at Starfish Speaks, because we saw Tiara Everett present on that, and we thought, are you kidding me? In Cleveland, we've got 2 nationally recognized autism centers and schools. We've got multiple small autism programs. How in the world could we have racial disparity? So, what disparities or barriers to access do you see, and does Milestones directly see existing in Cleveland that we need to break down?
This is I appreciate that you're raising this issue. We felt it was very important to highlight at the conference, and what's wonderful is it's generating conversation, and it's generating conversation beyond the conference into other venues, such as through your program. And for Milestones, what we're also developing is a diversity task force, because we want to hear from family members, but also professionals with different agencies that are serving individuals from different racial backgrounds, as well as individuals who are coming from different geographic areas and low income. But specifically, we were wondering, why is it that a person of a certain race is being treated differently in terms of access to information? I think that it's going to be complicated, and yet it's going to be very simple. Someone with autism presents with particular challenges, and if someone is untrained, they don't know, is that person violent? Is that person aggressive? Why are they coming towards me? Why do they need this helper with them? What's going on? They don't understand. So again, education is going to be very important to first responders and members of the community. The areas of why people are not receiving the autism service, are they assuming this is a behavior challenge and putting a child into a situation with multi-handicap, multi-disability, because they're not recognizing that it's the autism
or emotionally
the
disturbed classes, ED
right.
classes, which are oftentimes traumatizing for some of our kids on the spectrum. But, you know, I think there is an issue with it. And as we heard that show and presentation, as I prepared for other shows, I began doing so much research and reading, and we're going to be bringing on some of the researchers across the country that are doing this. One of the things that seemed to be astounding to me is the number of our young men of color that actually have autism that get classified with emotional disturbances, and their behavior is seen as oppositional, defiant behavior, when it's actually sensory driven, and the kids are overwhelmed by the environments and those things. And I think we've got to have that dialogue and discussion. So if we have listeners that want to be on that diversity task force, how could they call and say, hey, I'd like to be considered for the diversity task force. I'd like to have more information on that. How can they find you?
They can call us through our 216-464-7600 for any questions about autism. They can go to our website, milestones.org. They can write us at info@milestones.org. The purpose of this task force is going to be having a dialogue, beginning to hear what the issues are and how we can address it in our different services. One of the things that's important to us is to say, let's not keep this separate. Let's have an opportunity to hear what these issues are and then incorporate the individuals who are presenting this into our other committees, not keeping it separate.
Right.
Let's really inform all of the committees and the services that we provide, so that as a community we're learning together and we are better supporting our entire community.
Yeah, and see, you know what? That's how that's what Starfish Speaks has become. And we want to make sure everybody understands the resources, as well as have that dialogue about some of those tough areas to speak about and begin speaking about it. Because I really think if we bring light to some of those issues, we're going to find solutions. And Cleveland is a solution-based city.
I agree with you. That's why I think we're able to start these kinds of organizations. When I moved to Cleveland in 1990, and what I saw around our community is people roll up their sleeves. People want to make this a better community, and that's why I think we're here. We're here to improve our local resources for our kids and for other kids.
Absolutely. I want to remind people you can join the conversations and call in and ask questions to Elena, 216-578-1490. All right, so what is Milestones doing? You've talked a little bit about it, really with the professionals. I know you have a professional registry that people can be listed on. Is there some way that you do a vetting of the listings as well for the professionals that are on there? And what expectation do you have for the professionals that you're recommending to families?
On our website, milestones.org, we have a resource center with many different categories of resources in education, in medicine, behavioral, speech, social groups. And so if a professional would like to be listed, we have a list of questions. We have an interview with them to find out how they are supporting the autism community, their level of education, as well as a question about how much access does the family have? Can they come and observe? One of the things I wanted to mention from your initial call, which I think you handled beautifully, and I think it's so important that you're able to share with people what the steps are that they can take to improve their IEP process, is as a parent, you have a right to ask for an observation. I think it's really something that parents don't take advantage of enough, and I think you'll be surprised at what you learn, what's going well and what things that could be improved. Because if you see something going well at school, you want to do that at home as well.
Absolutely. And we had Jennifer Levino last week on a special ed attorney that talked about that. Because, in Cleveland, unfortunately, a lot of our families come up against, we can't have you do an observation, or you can do an observation through a video camera in another room, and we'll move the camera around so you can see only your child, because it's a violation of the other children's FERPA rights, their educational rights, which actually doesn't include observations. And she said, nope, that's not true. That's one of those myths of special education. You can absolutely be in the classroom, observe your child live in the classroom, and see how they interact with the other students, how they interact with the teachers, and what's going well and what isn't going well. And I do observations all the time. I got to tell you, it's a wealth of information.
It is. And what I find interesting is I learn a lot in only a few minutes. I really don't need to be there for a long time, but I like to see, I'm looking for independence. I'm looking at how much that child is able to take and learn from those things. So I can talk a lot about it. I mean, I think observations are key and very important. But you had asked me another question about professionals, so I just want to circle back to that. So that's how people can be on our resource center. Professionals, we are looking for professionals to present at our conference, and there's an open call for proposals that will start November 1st. We want to hear about all the wonderful programs going on in our community, and so we want to be able to share that information. We do have opportunities through committees for professionals to get involved, to help select sessions for the conference, to help plan other services that we're doing. We look for professionals on our board. Our board is an interesting mix. 1/3 are family members affected by autism, 1/3 are professionals in the community, and 1/3 are community members who just feel like Milestones is an important resource. And the three of them work together collaboratively, and I think are able to support our efforts, and is a big reason why Milestones has been able to be around for as long as it has been, and has been able to effectively serve the community.
And so dynamic, because I know you had to expand spaces because we're running out of spaces. No, I think it is. Absolutely. So, I know you have an event coming up, and I want us to talk a little bit about it, because it's more than just an event. It really is. When I hear your event and it says Spectrum of Possibilities, and yeah, it's a fundraiser and it's a benefit and everything else, but when I heard that title, I started thinking about it. It's really a mindset. And so, what did you mean? What did Milestones mean when they said this spectrum of possibilities? What were you meaning?
For us, the spectrum is, again, it's not a cookie cutter definition of success. Each person has their own goals. Each person can reach them in a different way. And I think it opens up your mind to feeling that a person with autism has many strengths. And if we focus more on their strengths, even more than we focus so much on their challenges and their weaknesses, we can help guide individuals toward reaching their own potential. I think even as a parent, when I began to shift and say, okay, I see my daughter, I see, oh, we're working on all of these things. But when I started to think about, she's really good at organizing. She's really good at keeping her in space. She's really active and likes to do things. That's a wonderful thing to channel into volunteering and into working and into a greater quality of life.
Awesome. I want to come back to this, but we have a caller on line 1. Welcome to Starfish Speaks. Hello?
Hello.
This is Donnie Gilcher from Starfish Speaks. Welcome. What's your question?
Hi. My name is Wayne Cater, And we have a program that we call Restoring Cleveland for You. And what we do, we go into like different places like the library or a school, and we try to teach homeowners how they can do programs like projects, what they taking on, things they may want to rehab in their house, like maybe a backsplash or fix drywall or do some painting. And I was wondering, does that fit into your curriculum?
Well, I think the curriculum is open. So you're looking at how could we be able to connect with individuals with autism to help either volunteer or to work with your train with your program. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. You know what? That would be great. Is it possible that you can, because I think that's a great idea, and that's what we need in the community, because it's really hard to find places to have internships other than, the fast food kind of places. And a lot of our kids don't want those kind of things, or working in cafeterias or Walmart as their thing. I'm wondering if you can, Wayne, give our control your address and telephone number so that we can contact you, and I'll share that information with Milestones as well, so that we can hook up with you and see what possibilities of partnership there are. Thanks so much for calling in.
Yes, that would be great. And we're 501c3.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Wayne.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that's great. See, I think we need those community partnerships.
I agree. I think we have to be creative in the opportunities.
Absolutely.
Right? And I think it's important for us to understand when people are going to school, the focus is on what are you not doing well? What can I teach you to do better? When you're in a work environment, we are hopeful that in that situation, you're actually doing the things you enjoy and the things you're good at.
Right.
And having that combination provides more self-esteem and confidence, and provides all of us, but especially people with autism, the opportunity to give back, to contribute, to feel good about themselves and what they're doing.
All right. So I know we have to go to break. I'm getting told that we have to go to break. So, maybe we're not going to break. I thought we were going to break. I was told in my little head. So while we're waiting for that, how could we create in Cleveland literally a movement of small businesses, independent people, to begin to create these volunteer internship possibilities and things? So we're going to come back. Think about that, because I'd love your input. You're on Starfish Speaks. Remember, you can join the conversation, 216-578-1490. Sorry about that.
Visit newstalkcleveland.com to sign up for the One VIP card from American Express Serve. Get free early direct deposit, ATM use, and online bill payment. Your money matters. Do you need auto insurance, SR22 insurance, homeowners insurance, or commercial insurance? Call 216-691-9227 for a free insurance quote. With over 22 years of experience, Washington & Company Insurance Agency will save you money on your auto, SR22, homeowners, or commercial insurance, with liability starting as low as $35 a month and full coverage starting as low as $70 a month. Whatever your insurance needs are, call 216-691-9227. Washington & Company Insurance Agency for a free quote.
Jacarius Johnson is back with another hit show. Two can play that game. The movie you love is now a stage play. When men start playing around, women will even the score. Starring the one and only Vivica A. Fox, Portia Williams from The Real Housewives of Atlanta, Gary Dourdan from Being Mary Jane, comedian Coco Brown, Carl Payne from Martin, from Scandal, it's Columbus Short, and R&B sensation Vivian Green. October 22nd at the Playhouse Square State Theater. Tickets available at the box office, playhousesquare.org, or charge by phone.
WERE Cleveland Heights, WENZ HD2, and WZAK HD3 Cleveland.
Welcome back to Starfish Speaks, and if you're interested in becoming a sponsor on Starfish Speaks, please call Joe Hewitt at JDC Advertising at 440-565-7720. We would love to have you sponsor and highlight you on our show. So welcome back to Starfish Speaks. When we left, we were talking about the possibilities, that spectrum of possibilities. We had a great caller in from Wayne that has a program restoring in the community, and he was looking at how can I make those connections. So what else do we have, and what specific help do individuals on the spectrum need to be able to reach their full potential? I mean, we've got the social services pieces of, connecting into the Cuyahoga County Board of Developmental Disability or any of the County Board of Developmental Disabilities. We have in Ohio opportunities for Ohioans with disabilities, and in other states, because we're across the state and across the country, people are listening to our show at the same time, the Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitations. But there are a lot of parents that don't want to get involved with federal programs, and I can see that, and so they're looking for private things, and Milestones really fits into that because you allow private pay. But also at the same time, towards independence for young adults, the big elephant in the room of the spectrum of possibilities is housing. Yes. And being able to live independently, and what skills do you need to live independently. And once we even develop those skills, in Cleveland, there's not a lot of independent housing for it. So help us be able to expand the spectrum of full possibilities for an individual with autism. I mean, I think we've got, unique people that have made it in the world, but, your child and my child is on that first wave of the group of people where we started to do early intervention. We started to name what it was. It wasn't, just identified as either, mental retardation or cognitive deficits. It's because of the speech issues. A lot of times, a lot of kids got, identified with labels that didn't fit. So we've got this group. They've graduated. They're moving. How are they going to reach their full potential?
How are our individual kids going to reach their full potential? We have to, again, start with the individual. We have to start with one at a time, figuring it out. And yet there are so many of them that we have to have some pockets, some groups. So it's complicated, and I think we have to try to look at each thing separately and move people along. I think we have to think of our children. Beth Thompson often says this, and others have said this. Transition starts at birth. We have to start thinking
Absolutely.
From the beginning how we're teaching our kids, because when you teach a child at 3 and 5 something that looks really cute, at 15 it does not look cute. At 25 it could be harassment. So you have to think about what you're allowing from the beginning and how you're teaching from the beginning. And that's a heavy burden on the family and on the teachers, but it is kind of the reality. We have to think about what we think is appropriate behavior from the beginning and how we're teaching and supporting our kids from the beginning. So I think that has to be understood. I think there's also a lot of pressure on the families in terms of taking their children out into the community and thinking everyone's looking at them and they're bad parents because their child's having a meltdown. Mm-hmm. It's the reality of day-to-day living with someone with autism, someone who has special needs. And there's a lot of pressure on us as parents that we have to have these perfect kids, and we see other kids doing well in other situations.
I had a little, like a business card at one point, because sometimes going out to restaurants in those places was a little hairy. And so I made up little business cards that explained what the issue was, and because I needed to teach behavior.
Yes.
and teach that. There were many meals ordered, never eaten. Yeah. And so I would put down, if we got our drinks, I'd put down the business card that explained what the issue was, put down how much I thought it was, and plus extra for tip. And we would leave the facility because I needed to teach that wasn't appropriate. But, there were many times that I in grocery stores would handle because my kid was having a dad. And they think, oh, my God, you're killing your child. No, I'm just trying to get them out of the store, right, kind of thing. But I think that is, and a lot of parents do, they shut down.
They shut down.
They don't want to do it. I mean, and there were many times, I got to tell you, in my thoughts, I will never leave the house again. I have been mortally embarrassed. And it's only because I had this belief of I'm not going to wear the shroud of shame kind of thing. But a lot of parents don't. So how can parents find out about events or opportunities for them to be able to take their children out into the communities, to be able to practice some of these appropriate skills, but practicing with, in friendly environments.
Autism-friendly environments. We are so on the same page, Donna, every single point that you're making. I think practice is really important, and we shouldn't shy away from it. And have a practice restaurant in your house. Start there. Practice in your house, looking at a menu, choosing. Isn't that what pretend play is?
It is.
Isn't that what we're doing with our young kids? So practice in your house, one by one. Invite a cousin over, invite a neighbor over, have them in literally for 15 minutes where you can have a little short play date, and you don't have to feel like, I got to entertain them for an hour. Then I got to entertain the mom and dad, right? No, this is what it is. Tell them up front. I've been very lucky, Mia's been very lucky that families have provided that for our kids, and I think it's such a gift, and it's such an important thing. And you know what, those young children who come in to do that practice, that's the environment we're creating. We are inviting and teaching other kids that it's okay, and they're seeing them in their schools, and they're seeing them in the community, and they later will become their own employers and could be offering a job. It starts from the beginning. So I think practice is really important. Start in your home. Talk to, you have to bring your child to the dentist. Talk to your dentist. Will they let you come in at 8 in the morning before all the other people? Let them practice walking in, sitting in the waiting room. Let them practice walking in, sitting in the dental chair, and not doing anything.
Well, I know on your website you do have autism-friendly dentists.
Yes, yes,
listed, because that is a tough one.
And opticians. And pediatricians. And that's really the difference. People who are welcome and open to this idea that our children will need a little bit. And you know what? It pays off. See, all of these things we're talking about will pay off in the future. So that, one of my proudest days is my daughter was able to go into the dentist. I didn't go back there. She went by herself. She sat down. She knew what to do. But it takes a long time to get there. And that's the thing that's really hard for parents. They have to have somewhat of a long view. I'm going to put in the time now. The schools, the community, we all need some of this long view that it does take us a while, but we could get there. I can't promise for everybody, but it should be improved if there had been no support and intervention. It should be a little bit better there. You've asked me many questions, but you see my answer it's slow. There's not a one fix all. It takes a lot of time.
It does.
And effort. And that's why we need to be supporting our families. So the Autism Society has family-friendly events. They have a wonderful social skills program. The Autism Society of Greater Cleveland, the Autism Society of Greater Akron has a lot of programs. On our website, we have lots of things listed, autism-friendly movie nights. And I think also finding a restaurant, a lot of families will point to the restaurant as something that's like a normative experience for their family they would like to enjoy. Find a restaurant in your community, talk to the owners, talk to the wait staff, and ask them, when is it a slow night? When is it going to be a quieter time that I could come in and maybe practice and have them sit in the booth and meet the waiter or the waitress and, build up to being able to come at a later time?
Yeah, I'll tell you, we have a Starfish family who that was their dream down in Florida to go to this Mexican restaurant, and they had taken me out to this Mexican restaurant. It is a really great restaurant. It really is, and it's not a high, la-di-da one kind of thing. It's just a family style one. So this had been a year that they had been talking about this. So I actually called the guy up from Ohio and for the birthday and said, you know what, is it possible that you would open the restaurant at 10 a.m. instead of at noon for this family to come and have, birthday Mexican celebration, and I'll guarantee you 5 more families that will come at the same time. And he's like, well, if you can guarantee us other people and they're going to pay for their meal. I said, they'll pay for their meal and stuff. It was a blast. Guess what the guy does? he does an autism service now.
Beautiful.
With it. But he had never thought of it, and he did not have any idea that all the commotion in his restaurant could cause problems for other people. So I thought it was interesting, but it is. Sometimes it's just taking the risk to ask.
And you know what I like about this example is this is an opportunity that's good for that family, obviously good for that individual. It's good for that business owner. Let him have more business because of this. Let him be known in the community as someone who's open like that.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to break. So let's take a break. We'll be back in a minute. You're listening to Starfish Speaks on WERE 1490. Feel free to join the conversation at 216-578-1490.